trained people for many years. What was that chapter like for you?
Back then, I thought that I was being super healthy and that, you know, I had the discipline, that I was doing everything like what society was saying to do, right? Have discipline, like work harder, you know, train harder, eat less, you know. And so I was doing all the things, and I really thought that that I was healthy and happy, but I always felt, I remember, like I wasn't happy. It was painful because it was frustrating. It was like an obsession. My days were wrapped around what I was gonna eat, how I was gonna train, you know, what filter I was gonna use on the photo, and, you know, just on my phone, editing photos and checking the likes, and it became this like obsessive thing.
So you took it too far.
I took it way too far. I started training pretty heavy at like 19. I was hanging out with like bodybuilders and, you know, partying in the house scene, and, you know, that required for the hot girl to have the hot body. And, you know, genetically, like I'm a pretty thin, I always weighed about 135. So genetically I was pretty thin, but not voluptuous. So to create that voluptuous body was not something that I was genetically given. So it had, you know, to do a lot with how frequently I ate and how I trained. And so once I got to the body, right, with the butt and the little waist, I was like, I have to do everything I can to keep it.
Now what?
Now what? And now what? And it wasn't enough.
Right.
You know, I got the body. It was like, you couldn't look I mean, like I look filter, I look snatched, you know? And then I was like, well, if this goes away, then I'll just buy a butt, you know? And it was like, this cannot ever go away because of the attention that I'm, you know, it was just like my whole life. Anyway, for many years, I went from one diet to the other. I tried everything, was always counting calories. I was always tracking macros. It would get in the way of like my family vacations. You know what I mean? Like I would like call the airport, like, hey, can I travel with my meal prep and my meatloaf? And like, you know what I mean? Yeah, and then I hit a wall. I had some health consequences. My hormones were definitely out of whack. I was training 2 hours a day and, you know, passing out for like hours. I couldn't like make it to work, and I ended up losing my period. I stopped getting my period for about 7 months. And in that time, I was so depressed because I was still at like, I don't know, something under like 1,500 calories a day. And I was just putting on weight and putting on weight because my hormone, I had some kind of hormone imbalance, and I was just miserable. I remember like that was like my bottom. I hit an emotional bottom of like, I can't do this anymore. Like this doesn't feel good. I want to feel good, you know? I had this like spiritual awakening.
Yes.
In order for me to fix the outside, I had to fix the inside, you know, so that I can see the outside differently. And I knew that deep inside, and that's exactly what happened. You know, I started healing and I didn't get my period back, but I stopped working out for about 6 months. So that was really, really hard for me.
Right.
To not be at the gym, to not exercise, and, you know, to eat bread again. So I started eating foods that I considered bad foods, and it was like super like trauma, like hard. It was hard.
Yep.
As I was healing, I met you. We've been friends for years. But in my obsessive, you know, behaviors, I would see some of his stuff and like it would just hit me at my core. And I'm like, I hate this fucking guy. You know, because it was like speaking to my spirit, you know. He said a lot of truth that irritated my illusions. And I wanted so badly to reach out for help. You know, when I didn't have my period and stuff, and my ego would just not let me, you know, because I wanted to be seen as this like health nut. And, you know, I was like, at that point I had a meal prep company, so it was like
your identity.
Yeah, my identity. It was my identity.
Right.
And then I felt horrible for what I was like transmitting to like other women, right? When I started healing and, you know, we got a little bit closer, I think, you know, what really, my healing really happened is when we started dating in this relationship, because I could hear the message and I can hear truth, and I can get out of this like illusion, you know, world that I was living in. I'm so grateful that I healed everything that I needed to heal, and that I, you know, grew out of this, like I'm having a baby girl, like the last thing I would want is for her to see mommy, you know, counting macros and drinking shakes and, you know, like counting how many spoons of tuna, or like, I don't want my daughter growing up with that, you know, and it's like, I do believe that everything happens in perfect timing, and that I was able to heal, to have this like peaceful pregnancy of, you know, I've been eating everything that my body tells me I need to eat, you know, and I don't obsess on what I'm eating, and I eat for my mental health. And as a result, like, look at me. I mean, I look fucking good. Pregnant, you know what I mean? I don't have the body that I used to have in those pictures, but I feel like sexier than I've ever felt in my life.
We
you
eat
know,
some pretty good food, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, and I still do some pretty good squats, but
yeah, you do.
but we eat well, and you know, we exercise because it feels good, you know, and because
You put sanity over vanity.
Sanity over vanity. I love that word. Sanity over vanity. But then what ends up happening is that like the inside like shines out.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't need the ass that I used to have, because of the confidence level that oozes out of me is worth so much more than, you know, the girl that's like got the perfect body, that's like checking her, you know, and you can feel the insecurities like coming out of them, you know, and it's like, I was so tired of it. It was just like, I needed that weight lifted off of me, you know. It hurt. It's still like, I could cry just thinking about like such beautiful women that, you know, that don't know like how peaceful it could be.
Right. A lot of people hiding behind the ego.
A lot of people. It's all ego. Yeah, once they get like past their mind stuff and into their heart space, you know, the ego kind of like leaves you alone a little bit and lets you just bask in your essence, you know. And it is hard. It's hard because it's like a lot of things that you thought were true about yourself, or, you know, a lot of identities that you were attached to kind of like dissolve, and you're kind of like, who the fuck am I? You know, and it's like, you start answering questions like, wait a minute, I'm nothing. Like, there was a time where I was just like, you fucking loser. Like, you fucking think you're so hot, and like, you want to just get things for free and get your hair did, and you know, like I was like one of those, and I'm like, I looked at that girl like, ugh, you know. And then you go into like, once you reach into your heart space, you're like, wait a minute, I'm nothing, but I'm also everything, you know.
So you no longer just eat for fitness and for your appearance.
No, I eat to feel good. I listen to my body and what my body needs.
You eat to be in a good mood. To feed the baby.